So we're just going to give you an overview of WallboardFX version 3.0. So that's the next update to our Wallboard application. So a quick rundown of the waypoints. We'll cover the house rules as usual. A little bit about UnifiedFX as a reminder. I'm just going to quickly recap some of the top level features and enhancements that were put into 2.0, just in case anybody missed it. Just bear with me a little second. I think my headset's starting to act up a little bit, so thankfully Mohammed was there to help me out. So we'll give you a quick recap on version 2 features, and then obviously we'll go into the detail of what's new in version 3. There's some general performance and scalability enhancements. We've added a mechanism for performing password recovery. And then we've got some general enhancements that just have been, demand requests from customers over the last little while, like simple things to make things a bit easier from an administration perspective, such as copying displays, which we'll tell you a bit more about, obviously. And the main improvement and new functionality in this particular release is around the agent view. So we have a new way to view agent information. We also have a table way to display it, which we'll show you. And we have a offline agents approach as well. So that means that if you want to, just a couple of customers have requested to see people that are offline as well, so they don't necessarily just disappear from the display when they go offline. So there's a way to do that. And we'll give you hopefully a little demo, and if there's any questions that come up, we'll catch them at the end. So if you do have any questions, please use the Q&A panel and submit to all panelists. So one of the guys online can reply to you, or I'll cover them at the end, certainly. And let me jump back a second. The session is being recorded. I did send this in the chat message, but just to highlight it, it's sales@unifiedfx.com if you want the download link. So in terms of UnifiedFX, currently we have 3 main products. So we have PhoneView, which is our endpoint management software used to manage quite literally millions of Cisco phones. In fact, we were helping a client just last week, I think it was, the weekend of the project, and they were migrating something like 10,000 phones from one cluster to another. And the chap was particularly pleased by the end of the project because it all went swimmingly, and all those phones had moved over. I think he had something like 50 phones or something that had to physically touch just because of some anomalies with those devices that we couldn't cater for. But basically 99+% of these phones moved over completely remotely. So that saved them a whole bunch of cost and hassle because of the service that they're delivering to our client. The next product we have is WallboardFX, which is obviously why we're here today. So we're just going to obviously talk about that in more detail. And then finally, we've got MigrationFX, which we recently just updated to version 3.0 with quite a lot of new features. But an important point about it is it's software you can obtain for free. It's used to make it incredibly simple to replace phones or to provision handsets. It's just a simple XML service that appears on the new handsets that you interact with, or it can actually automatically initiate itself as well. It's some scenarios it covers, which ultimately means that if you want to replace an old phone for a new, you can just swap the handset, and it can be completely automated if you wish. And you can also deploy provision new handsets. Say you're swapping an old non-Cisco phone, like a Avaya phone, for a Cisco phone, you can use it in that situation too. Greenfield, effectively. Another important point about MigrationFX is it's part of Cisco's new migration incentive program. So we've been transitioned over from the previous program, which was the TMP program, and we're now able to get MigrationFX to customers for free as part of the MIP program, which means that not only if you're doing upgrades of Cisco phones for new, if you're doing a competitive upgrade and you submit it via the migration incentive program and you put in our MigrationFX promo part codes, if you're interested, just email sales@UnifiedFX, we'll give you the details. Then that allows you to get a license for MigrationFX to swap all those phones for free for a year. So that's a quick rundown of what we have. So a recap of WallboardFX version 2. So the features that we've already added in that previous release is again, just based on customer feedback, is the queue abandon rate, which is basically a number of abandoned calls varied by protocols and averaged out. new agent statistics. So that's things like time in state, reason codes, calls offered, and no answer rate. So again, that's based on customer requests. The agent view, again, was enhanced in the last release. That particular previous enhancement is the ability to select specific agents. Previously, we showed you all agents in whichever relevant CSQ it was assigned against, but we had some customers that wanted to maybe pull out certain agents, maybe supervised, for example, so their status wouldn't be shown, etc. So that feature was added in that release. We also added a way to embed the wallboard display within a finesse gadget, which is quite useful. We've found more and more people, obviously, are now running on finesse. It's quite useful to be able to get the rich and real-time data that WallboardFX provides alongside our normal agent interface within finesse. And display restrictions, that actually works well with finesse gadgets. It's just some extra query string arguments and some other features that we've added that allow you to tie down the wallboard display, limited to a particular page and data and accessibility based on the way that it's set up. And it's quite handy with the finesse gadget because you usually hard code the URL that of the embedded content, and you can include those restrictions in that URL, and then it can kind of lock down and change the accessibility of some of the wallboard features in there. And then the last thing, which is a little bit more customized, a little bit of customization of the theme background. So that's existing functionality that's been in the product for the last year. In terms of the new functionality in 3.0, we've improved the performance and scalability. We had some original design elements which were quite heavy in terms of some of the model and information that we're retrieving from the kind of REST API in the back end as we're loading up the page. So we've significantly optimized that. It used to be that the larger number of displays that you had in certain entities, if they got quite large quantities of them, the page might take a bit longer to load up because we're kind of loading data we didn't really need to be honest. So we've optimized that, so that just improves obviously the scalability element of it. Another part of that improvement is the client connection status. So one of the key features of WallboardFX is the fact that the web-based admin interface gives you a visibility of all the browser sessions, all the remote browser-based displays. That's fundamentally how WallboardFX works. So you can actually see a consolidated view of all those remote kind of clients, but the connection status wasn't always consistent in a number of scenarios. So we spent a bit of time and we tidied all that up, and that means that it's a lot more consistent in terms of the state of that remote endpoint. Admin password recovery. So again, this is as highlighted at the beginning there, just a relatively simple enhancement. It's again with the odd occasion where people have lost or forgotten their password, or maybe someone's moved on and not taken a note of it fully, so they need to recover it. We didn't really have a procedure for this, so you had to basically kind of re-add your system, but which is pretty straightforward to do. But as the more information you set up, the more of a nuisance that could be. There was things we could kind of do manually, but it was a bit clunky. So we've made it a lot smoother. And in this case, you can actually just retrieve the password yourself. It's not on by default, so you have to switch on the kind of password recovery. To do that, you create a show passwords registry entry of type dword value 1, and you go to the relevant registry entry there based on either 32-bit or 64-bit machine that WallboardFX is running on. And once you set that value to true, in fact, I don't think there's a note on here, you'd have to restart the service, the UFX host service. And once it restarts, you can go to that URL that's listed on the page there, the IP address and port number. In fact, the IP address is local only, so it would actually be 127.001, so you can only access this from the local machine. Port 8080 is the normal port that it's hosted on, and then that will show you what the password is being set to. You can then take a note of that, and you can undo that. You can remove that registry entry and reset the service. So it's not something you'd expect people to do very often, but at least it's now there if a procedure to follow if you do unfortunately lose track of your password. Okay, so in terms of kind of net new and useful functionality, we've got the ability to copy displays. So this is what we class as a deep copy. So it goes every piece of information basically, and there's quite a lot of information actually when you build a display eventually once you customize it quite a lot, because you can have things like thresholds, and it's all down to the individual cell level. So all that data would take a little bit of time if you wanted to, make a copy or a clone of another display, try something slightly different with it, and then push that out. So instead, that's a lot simpler. As you can see by the screenshot there, it's really just a case of going to the display that you want to copy, click the little drop-down arrow, choose the copy option. You can see the big red pointer too, and then it will create a brand new display instance, which you can then go away and edit, but it has already all the same data from the previous one. So it's a relatively simple feature from a user's perspective, but there was a bit of work, unfortunately, to kind of put that together because it had to go quite deep to copy all that data, but you should be able to get the benefit. So it's great if you just want to take an existing display that might be quite complicated, lots of detailed information in it, just make an exact carbon copy of it, tweak a couple of things, and then you can, push that out to your users instead once it's ready. Agent View. So this is the offline agents capability. As I say, this has just been a couple of customers that have requested this. I couldn't really tell you exactly how many, maybe 10, 20% have probably asked this on at some kind of point in the past. And it's really just that normally we only show online agents in the kind of agent view and their appropriate color and status that represents them. Additionally, we did show offline agents, but the primary feedback we had was it was too busy and too much information, so that's why we hid the offline agents by default. But conversely, there's been a couple of people that have asked to actually see it because it suits their particular scenario. So therefore, rather than being hard-coded switched off, which we did a while back, you now have the option to see that logged out information, basically. One thing to keep in mind is your license count. Now, we license WallboardFX based on concurrent agents. That means logged in concurrent agents effectively. So if you have 20 agents configured on your UCCX system and maybe you only expect no more than 10 of them to be online at any one time, from our software's point of view, you only need to license those 10 concurrent agent sessions. However, you will not see beyond 10 agents in total. So if you do want to see offline agents, then you would actually need to have a license capacity, so to speak, that would incorporate those logged out agents as well. So if you had 20 agents total, 10 typically logged in, you would need an agent count of 20 to be able to see them too. So just a little technical note, because obviously you need to have the appropriate license count to be able to see them in the first place. And then our next kind of main feature really is the agent table view. And what we did with this one, and again, this is based on customer feedback, is people have been really happy with the kind of card widget type display that we show. Sometimes people have asked us to do bigger or smaller, and we'll get enhancements we're working on where we get ways that we can do that. But it's always tricky when people want customizations because ultimately you do one thing for one customer and it's maybe the opposite of what someone else needs, etc. But one thing that we did get consistently was to show the agent information in a tabular form. And this is quite good because you've still got the original boxed view, as we kind of call it. You can always go back and that just looks exactly as you'd be used to using it if you're happy with it as it stands. But for those other customers where they maybe want to look at the data in a slightly different way, then there's this table view. And I think part of the reason why we had this request is because within Finesse, some people look at some of the agent data with the kind of way that Finesse presents it, which is quite straightforward and basic, just raw tables usually. And I think they were just familiar to that format and wanted to be able to see the data in the same way they've seen it in other places like Finesse. So you can see with the screenshots here that when you're in the actual admin interface, this top right image, When you get to the kind of right-hand edge of the agent view, and I should be able to show you this in the demo, there's a new kind of drop-down radio kind of selection choice there between box view and table view. So it's box view normally. You can change it to table view and obviously save that. And as part of that configuration, you can obviously set the agent parameters that you want and the order of them. So therefore, you can add and remove different columns effectively, and reorder them as you want to. Okay. And you can see the big long screenshots at the bottom there as an example. Oops, daisy. An example of what it now looks like. But as I say, I'll hopefully be able to bring that up in the demo and show you what that looks like. And looking no further, it's time for a demo. So bear with me a second, I'll just get that. What's that? Okay, so I've got an instance of WallboardFX open, and you can see I'm browsing away here. Now I've just spotted I don't actually have an agent logged in at the moment, so I'll maybe ask Mohammed, are you able to do that? Yeah, okay, so hopefully he'll be able to jump onto our UCCX system and get an agent up and running and ready and get some data stimulating. But we're sort of waiting for Mohammed to sort that side about it. I'm just going to go into the admin interface. So we click the cog in the top right hand corner there. And hopefully I don't need to recover my password and I can remember it. Excellent, I remember it. So there we are. That's the display there. And we can see here's the agent view portion. Now, just to recap on one of those 2.0 features, this panel in the middle of the agent view there, that on the left and right hand side has the agents that you can select from and select and choose. So nice and simple. In our case, we only got 2 agents and they're both selected, but this is the one where you could choose specific agents or exclude certain supervisors maybe from this view. The new option is in the top right corner here. So that's your box view, table view choice there. And within the table columns, effectively, the definition of each column is in this list here. And we can click the blue arrow, up and down arrows to reorder, and the little red cross to remove that particular parameter. Choose parameters from the bottom there and add them in accordingly. So that's really the how you administer the table view mode. So it's the same data behind it, it's the same selected list of agents, etc., the same CSQs you get the agents from to populate the list, etc. It's the same thing where you can also have multiple CSQs and work from the working set of multiple CSQs and combine all of that together into one table if you wanted to. Now, one thing just to remind is this is like a typical default display I've got open at the moment, which is basically got a queue view at the top and an agent view at the bottom. So CSQs listed in the top with each queue with its own role and the parameters, etc. And obviously we've now got an equivalent kind of table, but for agent data in the bottom half of the page. The one thing you could do, for example, is I could simply remove the queue view, have just an agent view region, and a whole bunch of agents in there, quite a lot actually, would probably be able to fit in most displays. So therefore, I could just have an agent view only and have quite a big display, nice big table with all your agent statuses in there. So it just, again, depends on what kind of data you find useful and you want to present out there. And obviously you can add as many regions as you need to and reorder it, etc. The other little item here is this little tick box where you can change or enable it to show the logged out agents, etc. So again, just a nice and simple thing to do that. And if I go back to the Wallboard display, I was managed to log an agent in, excellent. So do you mind changing state on that, Mohammed, just to show what it does? Excellent, so it's gone not ready, and I can't remember. Do you want to put a call in just at least for a call stat? Yeah, thanks. I should have done all this preparation beforehand, but I got a bit lazy. So we can see it's currently ready. Time in state is ticking away there. Agent name, logged in ID. There's a call in the queue. It's ringing on the agent phone, and can you? Yep. There we go. It's answered. So it's gone to a talking state. handled is increased, time in state is changed again, and then if you hang up that call, back to ready, and then time and state's reset, etc. And that's it. So, that's the basic premise of it. Okay, so I think that's it from a demo point of view. I don't think there's much point showing you how to reset a password. It's not something I would expect many people to do very often, and just a bit technical than I'd like to bother about right now. Let me jump back to the slides and work my way forward. So I've got a slide just for questions. See if there's any. No, can't notice any at the moment. I'll double check in a second. I just have one or two last slides I wanted to cover just at the end anyway. So it's a relatively short session. We generally book an hour for these things, but sometimes you need the hour, sometimes you don't. So, happy to return people back to their normal work activities. But just a quick reminder that in November, at the end of the month, on the 22nd, we've got the PhoneView version 6.0 launch event, probably the biggest launch event that we've been working towards for a long, long time. It actually incorporates the PhoneFX functionality, which we're going to release separately in December. Is now embedded within PhoneView version 6, so it's a completely different way to manage endpoints. Really flexible, just all web browser based, etc. So we're looking forward to giving that functionality out. So hopefully it'll come together for the 22nd. And then in December, we have PhoneFX and NotificationFX. So PhoneFX, just as a quick summary for any that's maybe relevant to, it is a subset of what PhoneView can do. So PhoneView allows you to remotely control and perform a whole bunch of other actions. Oh, what did I do to my computer there? There we are. Allows you to remote control and do a whole bunch of other actions with Cisco IP phones remotely. Okay, so PhoneView is designed for bulk administration, so you can do tens of thousands of phones quite literally, as per that example as mentioned at the beginning of the session. Whereas PhoneFX, we've gone the opposite end of the scale, and this is really for one phone at a time scenarios, help desk, etc. What that really means is we've spent a lot of time and thought into what's the best scenario that an operational day-to-day troubleshooting, testing, and changing of a device incorporates, and PhoneFX is built to solve that problem. The first part of that solution involves just looking at one phone remotely, making it physically look like the phone and familiar, all delivered in a web browser, etc. No plugins, etc. Same kind of technology technique that we use in Wallboard, actually. Complementary to PhoneFX, we also have another net new feature and product that's called NotificationFX, which is basically a simple mass notification system. So you can do audio paging, pre-recorded announcements. In fact, we just added in a nice new text-to-speech capability, which we should be able to incorporate in that time frame too, I reckon. And it just means you can push out text and audio and multicast paging information out to tens, hundreds, or thousands of Cisco endpoints through that mechanism. So that we're going to release as a net new product on its own, but the PhoneFX part will also be in PhoneView too. And then finally in December, and just before Christmas, if it all works out, we are going to give a preview. So we probably still won't make the software available at this stage. We're just going to kind of demonstrate what it can do and what it's for. But we're going to give a preview of our AutomationFX platform from a developer's point of view. So when we built out the AutomationFX, which is what drives our MigrationFX product, as well as PhoneFX and NotificationFX. When we built the AutomationFX platform that these sit on top of, we built it in a way that allows other people to develop against Communication Manager and do a number of complicated interactions in a very simple way. So we're going to demonstrate what that's all about. The general plan for AutomationFX is that we'll probably launch it at DevNet Create early next year at that event, hopefully, or in a similar time frame to that. And as we start to get close to that public release, we're looking for more and more people to beta test it. So if you want to find out what it's about, and if it's obviously got any relevance to your Cisco Unified Communications environment, then please join us on that session. Now, one thing I would say about AutomationFX is it is actually quite relevant to contact center people, because it effectively a contact center at its simplest principle is really application enablement of calling activity, from a customer service, help desk point of view, etc., and the data and events that go with it. AutomationFX is a bit like the raw access to the low-level mechanisms, so you can, develop script and extend that functionality. So I think anybody who values the input and flexibility that their contact center solutions deliver, there might be some relevance in terms of what AutomationFX could also provide to extend that contact scenario. Okay, so I think that's us, other than double checking for any final questions. If you want to register for future events, it's listed there, events UnifiedFX.com. For the recording, it's just sales at UnifiedFX.com. You can download the software today. We've published it as a beta download at the moment, so the URL's there. Just download UnifiedFX.com WallboardFX/beta. If you have an existing key and it's valid, you can just install the new version on top. For now, we've not allowing it to be pushed automatically with the self-upgrade feature. We'll do that later, maybe next week. And generally the plan is to make it the default download around about the end of November.